Hello everyone. Hi guys, GM Fox. So let's start the session today and make this Sunday super Sunday. And with we have the great session last two sessions. I hope you enjoy it. And let's start it and understand what is the impact of Klaytn in the blockchain field. So let's start. About me, myself, developer Chandka Sama, developer ambassador and blockchain researcher at Klaytn Foundation. So these are my social media handles: Twitter, LinkedIn, Telegram. You can connect me over there. And now deep dive into first of all, before deep dive into the further topic, can we have the discussion of the homework question that I provided to you? I was asked these questions in one of the reputed and biggest tech giant in Web3. So that's I provided these question. So what is the reverse gas fee model? So reverse gas fee model is basically opted by certain chain. One of the example is Internet Computer Protocol, where developers actually pay the fees. User does not need to pay the fee. That's why it is called reverse gas fees model. In other blockchain ecosystem, basically user have to pay the transaction fee when they are performing the or using the certain dApp there. Question number two: how are the smart contract executed on the blockchain? That is a fantastic question. Basically, smart contract executed on the blockchain in the form of OOP codes, and those OOP codes actually help to understand the basically whatever you write in the form of the code that first converted into the low level language, that is ABI bytes, and that is then understand by whatever the virtual machine of particular blockchain network, and that's way the smart contract get executed there. Third one: what is the mean by hashing and cryptographic hashing? Hashing is basically like grouping of certain transaction by using certain block identifier. And cryptographic hashing is using the cryptographic function to hashing the particular transaction is known as the cryptographic hashing. Fourth one, what is the mempool? So mempool is basically is the collection of unvalid transaction that are not confirmed yet but put into off chain of the uh, off chain of the blockchain network. So that are considered and in a particular pool that is known as the mempool. Okay, so I hope I clear your what are the doubts you have, and you can ask me also in the chat also, and we can, if you have any further doubt, we can discuss. So let's deep dive into what is the transaction. So transaction in the blockchain network are the cryptographic instructions initiated by the user account to update network state. At its core, a transaction is the message containing specific instructions typically triggered by user initiated action. A common example of transaction is, for example, you are transferring crypto money from one account to another account. This process involves specifying sender address and the recipient address and the amount of crypto to be transferred. Once validated and added to the blockchain, and transactions are permanently modify the ledger's state that reflecting updated ownership of crypto between two account of the sender and the receiver. Let now move to next slide. So I hope you understand what is the transaction. Now the question, why the Klaytn transaction, and what is the description, what is the information it contain all about. Component of Klaytn transaction have value, the amount of clay in the pair to be transferred. Two, the account address that will be receive the transferred value. Input, the data attached to the transaction used for transaction execution. V and RS, these are cryptographic signature generated by sender to let the receiver obtain the sender's address. Ons, a value used to uniquely identify a sender transaction if the two transactions with the same address on if the two transactions of the same OSINs are generated by sender, only one will be executed. Gas, the maximum amount of transaction allowed to yield gas price, a multiplier to get how much the sender will pay in the token. Amount of the token in the sender will pay is calculated by using this formula, gas multiply with the gas price. For example, the sender will pay 10 clay for a particular transaction fee or the transaction. If the gas is 10 and the gas price is 10 to the power 18, the unit of clay described there, so you just multiply this number, you will get the how much fee you have to pay. So now let's understand. I go to my previous slide, and this one, and I here pronounce a name called ledger state. So now deep dive into this. What is the ledger state? So the state in the blockchain, the state refer to current condition snapshot of entire system at any given moment. It represent collective data including account balance, smart contract storage, other relevant information stored on the blockchain. The state of the blockchain network is constantly evolving as new transactions are added to the blockchain. Each transaction modify the state by updating account balances, changing the smart contract data, or performing the other actions that alter the overall system state. The state of the blockchain is typically maintained in a decentralized manner across all the nodes in the network. This ensures that every participant has access to the same consistent view of the blockchain state. Now understand by this diagram. So here I using the world term world state, and how we can understand what is the actually the transaction is. So world state, for example, I let us take sigma t, and after initiating the transaction, world state becomes sigma t plus 1. So you can see that the world state difference between sigma t plus 1 and sigma t is known as the transaction. And this is actually, the transaction is well known in a blockchain state machine when the sigma t initial state got updated to the sigma t plus 1, that is the final state of that particular state machine. And this state machine updation will be all of the node present in the network of any blockchain. So let us conclude here: the transaction based state machine is known as the blockchain. So transaction is the represent a valid arc between the two state. You can see here very carefully sigma t and sigma t plus 1, and so that is known as the transaction happening on blockchain network. Okay, now understand how these transactions get collected into the block. Okay, world state sigma t, that is the initial state we have. World state sigma t plus 1, that is the final state of the that particular state machine. So the whatever the transaction happening at the same time present in the same block, for example t1, t2, t3. So it means we can conclude here the transaction are collated into the blocks. This is the block you can see here, and block is the package of the data. It means it contains certain information about that particular transaction. Okay, now understand the chain of the state. So you know that, like you understand very well in the previous slides, the world state sigma t, world state sigma t plus 1, world state sigma t plus 2. It means that the state is changing, and this happening all of the time in the blockchain network. Guys, this is the interesting curiosity question I think arise in your mind: is blockchain ever stop? What is the your view about it? Please comment in the comment box or live chat. Okay, so the world state to world state sigma t plus 1, sigma t to sigma t plus 1. So we have the block B, it has a certain transaction t1, t2, t3. Then after this state get updated, this become initial state for this state, and this become the final state for this state. And so whatever the change between these state, and we have the block 4 to containing that transaction, because maybe the t1, t4, t5, t6, all of the transaction happening at the same time, and these transactions must have to store in a block b plus 1. It means that same time the world of the state get changes. It means also that the blocks also get the added, because a lot of the transaction happening at the same time. Okay, it makes a lot of sense to all of us, guys. So the chains of the block now understand. So now I will categorize the two definitions and two hardcore technical definitions of the blockchain. So you can see here the block B and the block B plus 1. So block B will have transaction T1, T2, T3. Block B plus 1 have transaction T4, T5, T6. It means also you can see that world state is also changing, because when we consider a transaction get happening on the network, its state of the machine will update at that time. If that not get updated, it means the system is not the blockchain, and it will not following the consensus protocol. Okay, so it means simultaneously we can conclude in further slide is that the blockchain is the collection of the blocks. You can see one after one new blocks are get added. At the same time, the world of the state is also changing. It means it is the machine of the it's of the machine of various transactions that getting updated at that particular time. That will refer a valid blockchain system. Okay, now understand we understand here. I conclude here. We understand how the blockchain is the collection of the blocks, series of the blocks. Okay, okay. Now understand world state. We also understand how the state get changes. So it's mean that the blockchain can be categorized in both two terms. Now understand what is the actually the ledger. I also used in the previous slide the word there, ledger. So ledger is basically is a collection of whatever the blocks present in a blockchain network. That means Genesis block, this is the block at when the blockchain gets started. Okay. Block 1, it get added again. Block 2, block 3, block 4, block 5, block 6, blah blah blah, block B, B plus 1. It means that new blocks get updated, new blocks get added at the same time, and it's make the blockchain ecosystem very, blockchain network very dynamic. And it's contain lot of the transaction that are performing at the network at that time. So it's mean it's, can you guys guess about it, how it's looking, it's appearing now, it's appearing now like the stake, and you understand the stake in the data and structure algorithm very well, I hope. Okay, now understand term the world of the state. So world of the state is the sigma t. So where you can see how we understand actually the world of the state. For understanding it, I am mapping the address 1 with account state 1. I am also mapping the address 2 with account state 2. I am also mapping the address 3 with account state 3. So if anyone asks you about what is the definition of the world state, so you can have different view about it. We will cover in upcoming slide. This is the first view about the mapping. So the world state is the mapping between the address and the account state, is also known as the world state. Now go to further slide, understand other view of world state. Here we have mapping view, table view, object view. Mapping, you are mapping the address with certain account state. Table view, like for example, you consider a world state where address 1 associated with account state 1, address 2 associated with account state 2, and blah blah blah, lot of the addresses associated with their account state. For example, you have address n, these are associated with any account state n. So it means that whatever the accounts, whatever the addresses are updated with certain or associated with the different account state. Now the object view, object means that, for example, if we define another definition of the world state, it is the collection of account 1, account 2, and blah blah, lot of the account. So that is another definition according to object, and object is the collection of something. Now go to what is the actually information we can get. For example, Klaytn have the different kind of transaction, and we have basic transaction, fee delegation, lot of these things. But I'm simply taking one sample type of any transaction and what information I can get. Okay, so this is the transaction number, this is the contract detail, and this is the address from to whoever we want to send it. Ons, because ons is very important in a transaction, and I recommend you guys and requested you, when you come to the next session, please give me answer why the OSCENS is useful in the transaction or in the blockchain transaction network. That's very important, guys. Gas fee, like what are the gas fee required for that particular transaction. Gas limit, how is the gas limit up to date. Value, whatever the value we are getting transfer, what is the data that is associated with it. And V and R and S, these are cryptographic values that we discuss in upcoming lectures very detailed. And this is the hexagonal number of these. So that's kind of information you can get an engineer or a developer or core user from a Klaytn transaction. Okay, why the Klaytn transaction is different, that's the question, and why I am here to answer it. Okay, so decoupling of address and the key pair, address and the key pair separation in Klaytn ensure that sender's address cannot directly derived from transaction signature. Guys, this is the fantastic functionality of Klaytn network. That's why how the Klaytn, why the Klaytn is different from other networks. So introduction from field. So they introduce a new parameter from the field, and Klaytn introduce field in the form of the transaction, explicitly specifying the sender address. And second process, validation process. To validate the transaction, Klaytn retrieves the sender account key using the from address and verify the transaction signature. Enhance the security. This approach improves the transaction security by eliminating the need to drive sender address from the signature, flexibility in the key management. User can manage their key pair independently of their address and providing greater flexibility and the control. Fourth, simplified the transaction validation, including the sender's address directly in the transaction streamline the validation process for nodes and the validators. Now understand the what is the different characteristics of a Klaytn transaction. So Klaytn transaction have flexibility in the business model design. Klaytn offer free dedicated version of basic transaction type to provide businesses with flexibility in designing their business models, subsidizing end user activities. Service provider can subsidize end user activity by covering their transaction fee, enabling the smoother user experience. Transaction fee subsidization with ratio parameter. Fee delegated transaction can verify, specify a ratio of the parameter, allowing service to provider to designate the percentage of fees they will cover on the behalf of their users. Okay, now understand what other characteristics of fate. Two signatures required. Fee delegated transaction require at least two signature, one from sender, another from fee payer. Third one, sender transaction hash. Sender transaction hash is the hash of the transaction without fee payer address and signature. It allows the sender to track a fee delegated transaction before the fee payer signs it. Tracking the fee delegated transaction. To track a fee delegated transaction, the sender generate the sender transaction hash and request a transaction object via clay underscore get transaction by sender transaction hash. This ensures the complete fee delegated transaction can be retrieved from Klaytn network. Okay. So any question guys you have, you can ask me in the chat, and I hope you enjoy the session. What are the different feedback and things you require from our side? So we are for you guys. So please tell, comment in live chat, and I am happy to answer all of the queries of you that you have in your mind related to Klaytn and development. So also share these sessions with friends, and please make it this revolution to happen to more people. It will reach to a lot of the peoples, and to become the part of biggest trainees of the web3 world. So any questions, please type up. I am waiting for your questions. If you have any questions, so we can get these and resolve here also. Okay, if you do not have any questions, so let's wrap up the session. And I hope you enjoy the session very much. I am enjoying very much to teaching and learning with you guys about the Klaytn ecosystem, network, and technology. And thank you so much for joining the session and giving your time and become the part of this biggest and of Web3 world. And very, very thank you so much. We have upcoming session on next Sunday, and your any queries you can connect over the social media, and I am happy to reply all of you guys. And thank you, and see you in the next session. Bye bye, take care, thank you.